On the line that begins with what shezeh meyavo. So yesterday we went through this hurdle of understanding how is it that the ha'ora, or the ha'ora from that which is recognized in Ava, is superior to the muhus of Zah. We discussed it yesterday, we explained it quite conclusively. Just want to add certain points that will hit it home even more. The difference that we can identify, the difference between the lakus and world. World is a pretty compelling presence, to the extent that it's undeniable. On the other hand, lakus, from our perspective, can be ignored, can be avoided. Again, a similar illustration from sight and touch. Touch, there's no way that you can touch and not feel the touch. You cannot remove the sensation of touch if you are in fact touching. Sight, on the other hand, they always say sight is the most compelling reality. On the other hand, it is the easiest thing to avoid and to eliminate from one's awareness. There's nothing in sight that compels you to go and see it. Or even to see it. You can close your eyes without effortlessly, and it doesn't exist. Literally, it doesn't exist. In touch, if you are going to close your eyes and avoid touching it, if you're going to walk with closed eyes, you're going to hit the object and it's going to hurt you. Now, when the object is there, the physical object is here. The sight element is entirely avoidable. It's a ruchnistic thing. It's a ha'ara. And so too is the the lakus in our world, from our perspective. Elokus. Elokus is not even ruchnius. It's totally remote from worldly awareness. It's known only to the finest and highest sensitivities in the nefesh. It's called the munah. It's not even sechel. And munah is a pshat that I know something without even having any contact with it. That's what munah is. And this is how sight is, as we point out. Sight is when you sight and you see the object and you're very much convinced of its presence without ever coming in contact with it. What is this element? What is the compelling element that comes through sight, that comes through emunah? This is the inyan of Elokus. What is the inyan of Elokus? The inyan of Elokus is a contrast to everything else. Everything else is defined by its presence. Elokus does not have a presence definition. Elokus is a pshat. It's a must be. The must element, the motivation element. This is Elokus. Not its subsequent presence. When you finally discover it and you have proof of its presence, you're not talking about Elokus in the true sense. Elokus you relate to prior to proving it. And you relate to it only because we have that element, that truth in our nefesh. In our nefesh we have that quality of truth that says something to be is not the real thing. Does it have to be? Why is it there? Not why is it there, what's its reason for being, what is it to do. Anything that has why is there, it's no longer that thing. It's no longer Elokus. Elokus is the pshat, as we always say, it cannot not be. Motivation is the name that cannot not be. In terms, in Chassidus terms, in terms of Chokre Yisrael, it is the world is what's called Efshoriyas HaMetzius. Efshoriyas HaMetzius means a Metzius that has a possibility. It's there because it's possible for it to be, and that's the extent of its being. Efshoriyas HaMetzius. Elokus is Mukhrach HaMetzius. Mukhrach HaMetzius means whether or not you're aware of it, whether or not you understand it, it's a Mukhrach HaMetzius. Mukhrach means it must be. This is the Elokus. That Mukhrach HaMetzius, even the ha'ora, even the sense of it, it shall not be erech to anything that's in the category of Efshori Metzius. Efshori Metzius also comes from Elokus. It's also created. It also represents truth. But Mukhrach HaMetzius, that is a completely different category of truth. And this is the inyan that we're saying that the chibur of Meshikin. Meshikin is an expression of avo, of sechel. Sechel relates to the Mukhrach HaMetzius. Even in Chochmas Chitzenis, there's always a question, what's your proof? What's proof mean? Prove it. Proof means that it's an undeniable reality. Even though that the proof that they're talking about is a very limited, contextual proof. But that's the whole idea. That's the limit of
So the proof is a deniable reality or an undeniable reality?
Proof means it's an undeniable reality. That's what it is. You prove it. What I'm saying, their proof is a physical, within the context of the physical world. It's not a proof going to the Mukhir HaMetzius. Within the context of the world, you're proving something.
You've shown it to be an undeniable. You've shown it to be an undeniable reality.
Within worldly context.
And what is that? What's the point that you're bringing out over there? Didn't follow the logic.
That anything has to do with sechel deals with the undeniable elements. The Mukhar HaMetzius. Even though I said they're not really talking about the truth that we're talking about. Not at all. Anything they talk about is after the fact. After the Metzius, after the experience. We are talking about the godly source of it. From prior to its being.
I don't know if I'm taking off, but the reason why we can ignore it is because we are looking at it.
Because in the context of the worldly presence, it doesn't exist.
I have difficulty reconciling these two things that you said. You start by saying Elokus can be ignored, and then you said must be, cannot not be. How do you reconcile those two ideas?
We have two elements in us. In everything there are these two elements. There's the essence and its functioning element, its faculties. Functioning elements. Functioning elements by us is all the koiches hanefesh, starting all the way from sechel. Any functioning quality, sechel, midas, anything that's on the functional level has to be first touched in order for it to be sensitive to what it sees. And if it's not touched, then it doesn't see. It does not see things because that's the truth, because that's the way it should be. It doesn't reach it. Then there is the etzem, the neshama element itself, the reality, the truth is. At that level, that relates for the opposite. It relates not to that which reaches out, but to that which is in an essential way.
And the chiddush is that Chochmah, even though it's a koyach, it can still perceive
because
this.
Chochmah is a koyach of beetle, therefore it can see the truth from a creator's perspective, rather than from the created. Chochmah does not look for proof within the created realm, context. It looks to identify it and to relate to that from the creator's perspective. Which is why Chochmah means Chochmah is Achdus Havaya, Hu Levadi Hu, Ve'in Zolosu, Zu Hi Madrigas HaChochmah. How can you prove? How can you relate to this whole inyan? Who levadu hu means a loss? This is the this is Madrigat HaChacham. So that, when we say, there is the hashpah atzmis of zum, yichud zum. Then there is hashpah chitzoinis of yichud nishiki. This is hashpah atzmis. It's not hashpah atzmis. It's a hashpah that attests to the fact that this really exists. It has a koyach, it can do things. It can create. This is the Yichud Zum. Then there is Avod. Sechel does not create anything. You can create anything with Sechel. It doesn't have a power to affect anything. But the expression of sechel, that expresses itself to nishikim, expresses it in phenomenal truth that is beyond the created level.
That's basically the truth beyond the creative level.
Like in our example of the host and the guest. The lunch is a real lunch. The host's presence is a non-entity. Who is aware? What aspect of us is aware of this phenomenon?
Sechel.
It's the finest element of our intellect. Okay. All right. Again, we are on page Samach Daled, about a third from the top, and the line begins shezeh me'avo. So yesh yisrim b'ha'ora zu legabe b'chinas ha'mahus l'zu. The proof for that this ha'ora is superior to the mahus of Zum. The now is mehamishna the say Beis the Baba Mitzvah. From the Mishnah, from the Halach, the say Beis the Baba Mitzvah, it says like this: Avedas Ovi, Avedas Rabbi, Shal Rabbi Kedem. That if his father lost an object and his Rebbe lost an object, and he, out of duty of Kibud Av and a duty of Kibud Rav, goes out to look for the Aved, for the lost article. Which one should he be attending to first? The answer is Avedas Rabbi Kedemus, Shal Rabbi Kedemus. So Rabbi precedes. That obligation comes first. Why? Because his father brought him to the life of this world. The Rabbi Shalom Dichel Chochmo, and Rabbi who taught him Chochmo, he brought him to to the life of the true world. This is the Mishnah, this is the Halach. So let's examine this halach. Baharei. But however, mitzad ho'av, that which he got from his father, harei ze bechinas hashpo atzmis me'atzmus nishmosim. From the father, this is a hashpo atzmis. This is a hashpo that represents the etzim of the father. Me'atzmus nishmosoi, from the essence of his neshama. This is what he got from his father. And this is why, in fact, the son resembles his father in many, many different ways. Because it's from the Etzem and Neshama. Umitzad horav, and from the Rav, Harei Hashpo as HaSeichel Hu Haor Lava. What did the Rav? The Rav does not bestow Seichel. He only teaches Seichel. So therefore he doesn't get Hashpo. This is only Haora. It's a Hashpo of Haora. Reflection of the truth, but not the Metzius itself. So therefore, how come Rabbi Kedemus? The Rav didn't give him a real presence. The father did give him a real presence. The answer is Ach Zehu. However, this is Lefi Shehaoras Shehaora Mimadrego Elyeina. It is due to the fact that the Haora Mimadrego Elyeina, from a higher Madrego, God Elyoisei, is greater Mehamehus Shebemadrego Tachteino than the Mehus that comes from a lower Madrego. Oviv הביא אל חי אלם הזה, הרבי הביא אל חי אלם הבא. What's the principle of this? What do we know about Olam Haba? We're talking about giving him covenant here, in this world. Oviv הביא אל חי אלם הבא אלם הזה. Chayil Mabo is in a future reality that he is totally unaware of. So, in what way is this so real that, therefore, it's a Rabbi Kedemus? Let us understand this a little bit deeper. If a person has everything that Olam Hazeh can offer, and he does not have a sense that there is also Olam Haba, that there is also an eternal aspect of life, not the temporary life that we have in Olam Hazeh. What is Olam Hazeh worth to a human being, if that were his perception? But that's an intangible thing. I know what I'm saying. Yes. eternity is not something that you can touch. But without that, the life is meaningless. It is only a ha'ara. It's an allusion to that truth. But that allusion is superior to the entire Metzius.
That doesn't relate to what you taught, what you explained yesterday about human being. How can you say that he is an atzmi or something like that? Like, you know, he's here for 120 years and he's gone, and yet we say that there is something in him that Hashem gave of his, like, you know, he decreed that this is what he's going to be here.
There we're talking about atzmi within the context of this world. In this world, there's an answer. That's what we're talking about. Like I said, he can own property just by virtue of declaring it's mine. In a very simple way.
But whatever that is that allows it to be, it's also intangible. It's also not something that you could actually put your finger on, and, you know, like you said, in contrast to the animal, for example, having to.
Yeah.
It was very subtle. I mean, for me, it was hard. When we say that the human being is such of a presence, it has nothing to do with him.
You
himself.
mean to say that the godly effect on the world, the fact that the world is a godly creation, is an intangible thing, and it can easily be derived. It's true.
But yet, it's of such a paramount importance that although it can pinpoint it, but it makes a whole.
That's right.
It's like even within that human being, he can't associate it with any of his own property, of any of his presence at all.
Right. Right. It's completely God-given. All right. So this is the that this is Rabbi Lomdi Torah. This is he only given a ha'ara of this absolute truth that may be l'chayil mabot. He taught him something that transcends time and space. This may be l'chayil mabot. Talks in terms of eternity. And this is why halachically it says that Sharabi Kedems. But this is, as I said, this is something which is in the future known. In this world, in the experience, so to speak, of this world, if not for that sense that there is a greater truth, a greater reality, then the materials of the world would have no significance to the human being. V'chein hu b'toiro. V'chein hu b'toiro. Similar is in Torah. In Torah, within Torah itself. Shomer Razal, the Chazal say, Yof esichos on shalab de botei obeis, meteros on shalbon. That in Torah we find sichoso. Sichoso means the casual talk of Abdei Botei Ovis, of the servants of the houses of the Ovis, of Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. is yofer, is preferable, more beloved, miteirosin shel bonim, than the Torah that it pertains to the children. Bonim means Am Yisrael. And where do we, and what is the Gemara's comment on? That Eliezer, Eved Abraham, when he went to fetch a wife for Yitzchak, it relates his story and all that was going on in his mind, his entire story. It relates in the Pasuk twice. The whole story, all the thoughts that went through his mind, everything had happened. In the Torah is not an extra letter. And here is a whole parsha. The answer is Yofer Sichos Automobilis. That Sichos Automobilis has a superior quality to it than the Rosh Hashanah, the Torah that gives direction to the children. So we will not do justice to it today. We just want to go through quickly. The Harei Bonim Huyin Bonim Atam Lamayla Bonim is referring to Bnei Yisrael, which is Bonim Atam Lamayla, and this is Nebesh's children. They have related to Hashem in the form of Bonim. Shezeh Bechinas Shefa Atzmis. Bonim, it represents Shefa Atzmis. The Gam HaToirahi, and then also the Torah itself, he bechinas Hashpah Atzmus. Torah is giving Hashpah Atzmus, and it says, Oisi Atam Leichim, that the Torah, the Rebbe gave himself over. Omikom Okoim, and yet still, Yofasi Choso, just the plain talk of Avdei Yovis is preferable. The Sicha hu ha'or levad, Sicha is just plain talk, not instruction, teaching, but talking. Sicha is a ha'or levad. Ukmei Sicha schuli. As in the case of the expression Sicha schuli means plain talk that does not talk directly about Torah. Okay, we have to stop. So here we have another example of the similar Indian of a ha'ora, but of a higher level of truth, then is superior to Hashpah Atzmis from a lower level. Okay, this is it for this morning.
Yeah.